Now for the last look. Russia's war in Ukraine has demonstrated that our dependence on oil and gas creates not just an environmental crisis, but a security crisis. It gives money and leverage to petrostates like Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. Clean energy would seem to solve both problems, but clean doesn't necessarily translate into homegrown. As Gerald Seib warns in the Wall Street Journal, Western nations could merely replace their one-time dependence on foreign oil and gas sources with a new dependence on China, and I would add other countries, for the critical minerals needed to produce electric vehicles and other renewable energy technologies. The biggest components of these technologies are steel and aluminum, but those are easy to get. The concern, as one of my producers wrote for CNN.com last year, is about more specialized materials: copper, cobalt, lithium, manganese, and many more. A recent study by the International Energy Agency looked at how much of those minerals are used in different electricity sources. For 1 megawatt of capacity, enough to power over 800 American homes, a natural gas plant takes about 1,000 kilograms of minerals to construct. For a coal plant, it's about 2,500 kilograms. For a megawatt of solar power, the fuel is free, of course, but the panels take almost 7,000 kilograms of minerals. Onshore wind takes about 10,000 kilograms. Offshore, more than 15,000. Keep in mind, the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow, so you have to build extra solar panels and wind turbines to replace a fossil fuel plant. When it comes to transportation, the average gas-powered car contains about 35 kilograms of scarce metals, mostly copper and manganese. Electric cars not only need double of those two elements, but also large quantities of lithium, nickel, cobalt, and graphite, over 200 kilograms in total. Like oil, these minerals are distributed unevenly across the globe and not always in ideal locations. 70% of the world's cobalt is mined in the war-torn and corrupt Democratic Republic of Congo. The next biggest producer is Russia. China presents an even greater challenge. It extracts a majority of the world's graphite and rare earth elements, such as neodymium, that are used for magnets inside wind turbines and electric vehicles. And regardless of whether a particular mineral is located in China, the Chinese have bought up supplies and dominate the processing of many minerals. The minerals industry isn't as popular as renewable energy, particularly on the left. There are real environmental hazards. But if people want to protect the planet from climate change and authoritarian powers, they will have to get on board with new mineral projects. Even the ocean floor cannot be off limits. So far, the process is very slow, according to the IEA. Even after mineral deposits are discovered somewhere, the average time to production is over 15 years. Some of that is planning and construction, but governments can streamline the permitting process to help get these projects moving. In the meantime, there are ways to take some pressure off new supplies. One is to recycle. The FT reports that over the next decade, as much as 20% of the metals for new electric car batteries could be salvaged from spent batteries and other items like old building material and discarded electronics. We should also invest in research to reduce our reliance on precious substances. A Boston startup claimed a breakthrough last year in creating an iron-air battery. This would not only hold a longer charge than the standard lithium-ion battery, the materials will be a lot easier to get. Iron and air aren't exactly hard to come by. The West is waking up to this problem. Last year's bipartisan infrastructure bill allocated several $1 billion to the production and recycling of critical minerals in the U.S. It also moved to cut red tape for mining on federal land. Recently, President Biden invoked the Defense Production Act to unlock more funds for mineral projects, though his regulators have also stood in the way of some mines. This will have to remain a priority for years and years to come. For the sake of the planet and international security, we will need to dig deep, quite literally. Thanks to all of you for being part of my program this week. I will see you next week. Don't forget, if you miss a show, go to cnn.com/Fareed for a link to my iTunes podcast.